All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything for the CrossFit Linchpin private track closed Facebook group. There's a mouthful right there. We do this every Thursday. Members submit questions, other members upvote them, and the most popular ones get answered live each week. As always, there are some good ones. And as I said earlier, I'm kicking this off a little early because I've got a sleeping newborn baby and I would love for her to stay asleep, so I'm not going to press my luck. So we're doing this a little bit earlier than I anticipated. Here we go. First most upvoted question was from Nathan. Why have boxes, aka CrossFit gyms, moved away from classic CrossFit programming? By far the most upvoted question. And I'll add a word to that question that Nathan didn't. And I would say that why have some, right? There's a number that have their some. I don't know what that percentage is. I'm not sure. So why have some moved away from classic CrossFit programming? This could be the entire show. Well, first of all, let's define what classic CrossFit programming is. I've summed it up before as, living your life in couplets and triplets. You go heavy at least once a week. Every now and then you go long. Understanding of intensity and maximizing your time in the gym. That's overly simplified, but that's classic CrossFit program, and it works profoundly well. Oh, I thought I heard the baby crying. I did not. So why have some gyms moved away from it? Most things come down to one or two reasons, right? It's either ignorance or malice. And I don't think there's any malice involved in why some gyms have moved away from classic CrossFit programming, which that leaves the word ignorance, which is not a fun word, and it can be sharp and stinging, and that's not what I mean when I use the word ignorance here. What I think is roped into why some gyms have moved away from that is there's a lot of facets to it. I think competition has a really big role to play. And I've said this before. People love competition, right? I get it. It's fantastic. And they idolize whatever these people are doing and figure that, well, hey, they're fitter than me, right? They must have cracked the code on something. So it would make sense for me to mimic what they're doing. Maybe. But that also... here we go. We're all friends, right? We're all friends. We're adults. We can take harsh talk. And as I've said before, when I deliver messaging, I'm often faced with a conundrum. That conundrum is, do I wrap people up in a warm, comfortable lie that makes everybody feel good about their decisions? Or do I present them with the truth, even if it's a bit cold, even if it's a bit uncomfortable, and even if it kind of leaves some folks with a frown? I can't wrap people up in an uncomfortable lie based upon my experience. I have to shoot people straight, and it's not my intention to upset folks. I can only tell you, what I have seen and what I truly believe based upon the last 16 years of me literally experiencing every single solitary facet and corner of the CrossFit ecosystem. So people see these, games heroes, right? Want to train like they do. Hey, they're fitter than me. I should mimic what they're doing. Sure. But from an athletic standpoint, okay? From a human rights standpoint, yes, all people are created equal from a human rights standpoint and should be bestowed upon them the same opportunities, freedoms, the whole 9 yards. The cold hard truth, from an athletic standpoint, not all human beings are created equal. I'm sorry. Period. End of story. There are some people who are just genetically better than you and me from a physical, fitness, and athletic capacity standpoint. It is not fair, but that's just how it is. And those are the people that we watch on TV. Those are the people that when you go to your kid's soccer game, lacrosse game, football game, even if you don't understand the sport, from across the field, you point to one kid, you're like, wow, that kid's got something that the other kids don't have, right? Holy cow. That's just the way that it is. And it will probably always be that way. And those are the people that get sponsored by shoe companies and earn their living doing these things. The rest of us, although we probably really don't want to admit it, right? Because we all have egos, we're in the 99%. We are. We're not in the 1%. Some folks might think they're in the 1%, but they're probably not. They're probably in the 99%. And so, but it can be very desirable and appealing and intoxicating to want to train like your heroes, even though they can handle more and tolerate more and recover better. And it's just flat out different. But sports and social media and YouTube videos and documentaries and all this stuff, it's very intoxicating. And it's very easy to go down that path. And I think that some gyms have gone down that path towards what will be more competitive style programming, multiple sessions a day, maybe lifting heavy every day before the workout. Also falling into the more is better trap, which is a really easy trap to fall into. I mean, it makes sense in a lot of things that if you do more, you get more, but that's not always the way that mathematical equation works. And it's not the way that it works for most of us in the 99%. There is a point of diminishing returns where you will get less the more that you do because you're not able to handle that. I also think it comes down to want versus need. And wow, this is a disgusting word that I wrote. I can't even see what it is. It's so awful. But what also I think is a shame is that coaching usually gets put to the side in those sort of environments because you only have so much time, and if you're rushing to get all these different elements in an hour, the poor coach goes from a coach of truly helping people to just herding cats, keeping the timeline. We got to move from part A to point B to, hurry up with your warm-up sets. We got to get in 4x7 front squat real quick before we do the 20-minute Metcon, and we got to get you out of here. The next class is coming. I think it's a rushed, ineffective way. I think it's a way to do multiple things in a mediocre fashion instead of a smaller number of things in a profoundly wonderful fashion with intensity. I think people don't recover enough, and then you might reach burnout. It's potentially injurious if you're just rushing through a heavy day. I've experienced that myself. And, the funny thing is, we get a lot of these folks come over to Linchpin. I mean, if we want real straight talk, our community is full of people. Just go ahead and post the question, the Facebook page, full of people that at one point in time did this sort of style training, got burnt out, got diminishing returns, burnt out physically or mentally, had some sort of an injury, and were fed up and came back. And we've got them here at Linchpin, and as we all know, suddenly things get better. There really is something to respecting heavy days. There really is something to that amazing thing called recovery. You work really hard, then you let the system rest. Then you can work hard again, then you let the system rest. Really, really good things happen both physically and mentally when you allow yourself to do that. And I also think people just like to lift. I mean, that's just another want versus need, and that's okay. I'm not passing a character flaw or judgment on somebody. Some people just like to lift. But I find it curious and intriguing that most of these gyms we're talking about that, lift beforehand, do the part A and part B, or have gone more towards a competitive style of programming, it's always the heavy lift followed by the workout, right? Right? It's never the track session followed by the workout. It's never 20 minutes of serious gymnastics followed by the workout. It's always the heavy lift. That the squat and the deadlift will solve all of your problems. They are the keys to unlocking your athletic development. Now, don't take what I just said as me being nonchalant and humorous that the squat and the deadlift aren't important. They're foundational. They are unbelievably critical to your athletic development. But you simply focusing on the squat and the deadlift or lifting heavy each day, if you think that is what's going to turn most people in the 99% into just ramping up their athletic development, probably not. And again, I think it's just allowing people to do what they like, not necessarily what they need. And, if we, maybe they take an assessment of these people, like, well, look at their lift numbers. They're a little bit low. Great. Have them go out and do a 10K. They probably need work there. Have them go out and do some 400-meter repeats and check those times against historical averages. Their engine probably needs a lot of work as well. Have them do L-sits and strict pull-ups and handstand walk and strict handstand push-ups and legless rope climbs and you name it. Guarantee their gymnastics need a lot of work. Most of us in the 99% need a lot of work on everything, which is what we do with general physical preparedness. But for some reason, human beings are human beings. It's a lot easier, right? There's the easy path, and there's the path that actually gets you where you need to be. It's a lot easier to talk a group of people into coming over to squat than it is to talk a group of people to coming to the track to do 400-meter repeats until somebody vomits. It's a lot easier to get them to get a lifting session in. And don't get me wrong, like I said, a lifting session is incredibly beneficial and important. But if that is only what's happening, and we're not doing those track sessions, and we're not doing that gymnastics stuff, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what is actually going to drive the needle forward. That's my take on it there. And, it's just simply not true that if you're stronger, you'll be fitter. It's just simply not true. Would everybody benefit from being a bit stronger? Most folks would, and they would also benefit from having a better engine, and they would also benefit from being better at body weight movements. Yes to all. That's what we attempt to do. Yes to all, and not just focusing on one, thinking that that's the savior that's going to lift the other two out of the depths. That's not the way that it is. For my athletic ability, I have a fairly decent front squat, I don't know how it developed. Hey, one workout a day, who knows? It works. So I've got a big front squat, and people are, well, you got a big front squat, that means you're going to beat everybody at a workout that has thrusters in it, right? Because the bigger your front squat is, the lighter the thruster feels. Yeah, but that is not the whole story. Because anyone who's done high volume thrusters at a moderate loading knows that sure, there's absolutely the contractile potential of your musculature involved, but it feels like Satan himself has took up residence in your lungs and is ripping your lung tissue out of your body and ejecting it out of your rectum. And so if you don't have top tier level conditioning, that magical big front squat, poof, it just disappears. And then you don't win the thruster workout because everything is critically important. Strength, engine, and body weight movements. So, anyway. Oh, yeah, that's, I hope that it's slowly changing. I really do. I really do. And, I've been around enough people and been around this thing long enough to go back to what I said about the 99% and the 1%. Here's another cold, hard fact that most people wouldn't want to hear. Even that number split, the 99% and the 1%, isn't accurate. Okay, because when you crunch the numbers down, we did this a couple of years ago, from the number of people that sign up for the Open and then the number of people that go to the games, it's not the 1% that go to the games. It's a fraction of the 1%. It's something like 0.2 of 1% is what go to the games. Not even 1% by a long shot. The other 80% of the 1%, 0.2 and 0.8 would make up 1. The other 80% for the 1% don't make it. So again, and even if somebody is a phenomenal athlete, like there's such a world of difference from being in the top 5% and the top 1%. You might feel like if you're in the top 5%, you're really close. Yeah, but it's not linear from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. Even from the top 5% to the top 1%, that top 1% appear to be different species of human beings. And then in that top 1%, you have the 0.2. Again, it is what it is, like I said. That's why some of us are, watching other people perform these things on television or YouTube or whatever it happens to be. But it's an interesting deal. But we're going to keep doing what works. We're going to keep doing what doesn't get people burned out. We're not going to fall into the more is better trap. We're going to allow ourselves to recover. We're going to respect the heavy days. And we're going to be able to be doing this for a very, very long time. So, Nathan, good question. Great question. All right, next question. It's from Melanie. Feel good question. I appreciate you, Melanie. She said, I thought I heard my boys come and I told them to let me know if the baby started going bonkers. How have the boys, we've got a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old, adjusted to having a sister, and how are you feeling about being a girl dad now? That was the second most upvoted question. So the boys are fantastic. Our little daughter Lane, she's about 3 weeks and 2 days now. And I didn't know how they were going to do, with a new human being in the house that needs a lot of attention. I don't know if we did something right, or I don't know if we just lucked out. Beats me. But the boys have been phenomenal. They love their little sister, love giving her attention, give her little kisses, they want to hold her. Actually don't appear to be overly annoyed when she's crying or fussy, so I don't know if that's going to eventually change, if they're eventually going to get okay, this is getting old. But anyway, for the first 3 weeks and a couple days, it's gone far better than I could have hoped. Hey, buddy.
Baby's up.
The baby's up or the baby's crying?
The baby's crying.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You want me to go get her out?
What's that?
You want me to get her out of there?
Hold on one second. Hold on. Stop the door. Let me listen. Okay. You can leave her in there. Yep, you can close the door. Thank you.
Leave her in there?
Yep, leave her in there. Get a little heads up from the boys. And the boys are also learning there's a little bit of difference between the baby just starting to stir a little bit and the baby's like, no, I'm awake. It's time to get up right now. So the baby's just starting to stir. So with that being said, I'll try to make it through the remainder of these questions quickly because she'll probably be up soon. So, yeah, boys are doing great. Thank you, Melanie, for asking. So far, loving being a girl dad, and I'm very curious to see the difference between boys and girls as they grow up, because boys just want to just destroy the house and wrestle 24 hours a day, and if the girl doesn't want to do that, it'll be amazing. I won't even know what that's like. It'll be incredible. So I'm looking forward very much to going down that road, but yeah, she'll probably have me wrapped around her finger, to be quite honest with you. All right, Daniel C. basically asked that if I competed at the CrossFit Games, what would I like to see for a workout, and what would I not like to see? I would like to see Fran, as odd as that is, because I don't mind thrusters, pull-ups in that time domain. Fran's not a bad workout for me historically. I kind of go into that pain cave for a bit. I wouldn't want to see anything with handstand push-ups. And if something like JT came up, the stadium would close down before I even finished the first round. So that would not make me look good. So yes to Fran, no to JT. Next question. Again, trying to move through these at a decent clip, just in case I got to get in there for the baby. Derek asked about CrossFit shoes. Curious as to how much of an impact or how important a quote-unquote CrossFit shoe is. Moving a heavy barbell makes sense. Curious your take on the specific need. So, the biggest thing I think about a CrossFit shoe, a good CrossFit shoe is kind of your do-anything kind of cross-trainer shoe, right? It's got a little bit of squish in case you need to go out for some runs, some 400s or whatnot. Probably wouldn't want to run a 5K or a 10K in them, though you could, but you wouldn't want to. A little bit of squish is good. but not too much squish, so you can still move some barbell, and all that hip opening and power that you drive through hopefully goes into moving the barbell and not just compressing your shoes against the floor. But the other big thing about a good CrossFit shoe, which I was around basically for the development, you could tell the difference, was rope climbs. Early shoes you'd pinch the rope and slide up and slide down, they would eat shoes alive, just disintegrate them. There'd be shoe particles all over the ground. And as CrossFit shoes became developed, manufacturers found a way to make the inside of the shoes grippy and strong and robust so that you could slide up and down a rope all day long and you didn't tear up the sides of your shoes. That's probably one of the biggest differences compared to even if you found some other more like minimalist sort of shoe, but it wasn't a CrossFit shoe, it might work pretty well. And then if you did a workout with a bunch of rope climbs, you might realize that half your shoe is just sawdust on the floor. So that's one of the bigger things there. I've never had a set of Nike CrossFit shoes on my feet, so I can't speak to them. Since, for a long time I got Reebok shoes free of charge, which that's a great price, right? So I wore those. And I enjoyed the Nanos and I enjoyed the Reebok TR Speeds, but I can't give you an honest comparison against some others because I just simply haven't had them on my feet. I've never had a set of Nobles on my feet either, so I'm not quite sure what those are all about. Okay. I'm listening. Hold on, let me listen for the baby. She seems to be okay. So I'll finish up with Ed's question. Then I'll go check on the baby. Ed's question was, as a master's athlete, should I approach heavy days differently than someone much younger? Instead of constantly trying to lift heavier, should I get to a point where I just try to maintain? And how is the best way to figure out when that point is? So good question. So you may not be happy with the answer because it depends a bit on the person. But from training seniors and speaking with seniors, there most certainly comes a point where seniors continue to lift heavy, but they're not chasing the 1 rep. The 1 rep gets replaced with 3s and 5s, become far more common. When is that point in everyone's athletic development? I can't say for sure. In the 60s is probably a pretty fair assessment, although there are people in their 60s still going heavy on singles, again, so I can't say it's an absolute. But if you're looking for me to give you a general guideline, in the 60s, I would say is the 1s kind of go away, the 3s and 5s come into play. I've also seen that come into play for much younger athletes that just have had multiple bad experiences going for true singles. The 3s and 5s will serve you well for the rest of your time on planet Earth. And so any time that a single comes up, you could put that in for a 3 or a 5, 5x5, 5x3, something like that. And there does also come a point, as you said, and this point will come for all of us, and it's different for all of us, where, there comes a point where you will never PR your deadlift again, right? If you started training in your 20s, and you're going to train your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Well, at some point in time, if you've been lifting and deadlifting and squatting that whole time, you probably set some lifetime PR of your deadlift in your 30s, right? Or 40s if you've been lifting since your 20s. You're not going to set it in your 70s. So at some point in time, your deadlift has peaked, and then the goal just becomes to maintain as much strength as possible for as long as possible, even though it's declining. And that's going to happen to everyone's gymnastics. It's going to happen to everyone's engine. And that just, father time comes for us all. And we maintain as much capacity as possible by doing the same stuff that we're doing now. Intelligent decisions, variance, resting when need be, listening to our body, and working out with intensity relative to our capacity as to wherever we are on our fitness journey. But Ed, as if you want me to give you a general gist, probably in their 60s is where I've seen it happen most frequently. So that's about that. There's also a really cool, I'll end with this, there's a really cool individual whose story I learned. His name's John Powell. He was a discus thrower, an Olympian a long time ago. I can't remember if he got injured or something happened, but he wanted to come back and compete as a master's athlete, but he couldn't lift heavy, and that top-end maximal strength is critically important for a power athlete like a discus thrower. So he lifted higher rep schemes. Still pushed himself, but didn't do singles, doubles, anything like that. Did a lot of like 7s, 8s, 10s or whatnot, but never lower than that. And was able to maintain a tremendous amount of strength and come back and compete at a very high level. So there is still tremendous value at lifting heavy, even with those higher numbers. It certainly can be done. So that's it. Thanks to everybody for letting me start this a bit early. I'm going to go check on my daughter. Keep being awesome, and I will see you for the next workout.